Welcome, welcome. Dr. Stephen Hobbs here from the WELLth movement. And this is part of the WELLther series. It's people who I have met and I've had some great dialogue with. And I thought that we, as in the WELLther that I've invited on, can share some thoughts about ideas about the world, about practice, about life and business. And today I have Indra Singh with me, and I met Indra through the EBC, the Evolutionary Business Council. She's a new member who's joined. And I just reached out and said, hey, would you like to chat? And it was because she shared a video of her foraging in the forest. And I'll let her explain a little bit more about that, because one of the things, as you know, in the WELLther series is that I always ask the person to introduce themselves so they get to share their story rather than me make something up that's formal and it sort of feels like, oh, I'm not sure. But WELLthers are people who are sure. And I would rather hear it in their words, and as I'm sure you would like to hear it in your words. So with that, Indra, do you want to just share a little bit more about who you are so that everyone gets to say, oh, hi, Indra.
Thanks, Stephen. That's a wonderful introduction. Thank you. So I'm Indra, and I am the creator of Silent Moon Imaginarium. And you might wonder what that is, but it is an international brand of flower elixirs that I create by Moonlite. So flower elixirs are vibrational medicine, which we take as drops on our tongue and just watch the transformation occur within us. So that's actually what I do, as well as I'm a seasoned yoga teacher, and I've been teaching for almost 20 years now, I think it is. I can't quite remember, a long time. And I do a lot of meditation and teach meditation to many people with addiction and people with mental health issues as well. So, but Silent Moon is my growing business, and that's why you saw me foraging.
Yes, and we've had a little bit of a talk about that, but can you just give us a little bit more about Silent Moon, please?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Tickle out a little more.
So Silent Moon came about a number of years ago. I'd say about 3 years ago, when I was actually finding out that I could channel flowers, and I could actually sit with flowers and work intuitively with flowers, and they would basically tell me what they were all about. I would channel them, sit with them, and notice that as I worked with them, they would tell me, each one of them would tell me their individual properties that they could heal, and they could heal within us. And so at first I sort of sat back and thought, okay, I've got this power, I've got this wonderful intuition. And I started creating the essences, first of all, just for me to work with, and just to see how both me and my family and friends could, what we were getting from it. And it was working. It was really working. And very similar to, Bach flower essences, Alaskan essences that are out there internationally also. They work in the same way. You take the bottle and you take it on your tongue and you just watch for the transformation to happen. However, as I started creating more and more and more of these essences, I realized that it was Moonlite that I really wanted to work with, because the nature kingdom not only has the benefits of the sun that help us to heal, but the moon also helps us to heal. And the big thing for me was to look at our shadow within us. I'm kind of one of those people who likes to disrupt rigidity, so to speak. So I don't do things by the norm, and I create my essences by moonlight. So I create them at night time. So I work with the energy of the moon cycles themselves. Now, I'm not an astrologer. I just work with the energy of the moon intuitively, and that's what I love to do. I need to make it a point that I'm not an astrologer, because people often wonder if I am, but there's no astrology goes on there. It's just the cycle of the moon at that particular time when I choose to make a particular flower essence itself. So the energy of the moon allows us to look at our shadow within it, look at those sides of us that maybe we don't like to look at as humans, and we all have them. We all have them within us, whether that be anger, jealousy, resentment. They're there within us. We're not all just pretty faces all the time. They're there, and they need to be looked at and acknowledged and accepted. And when we start to accept who we are, which is what the flower essences help us do, mine particularly, we start to accept ourselves for our wholeness. And then that's the bigger picture with what I do with my retreats, within Silent Moon and my one-to-ones, is to get people back to their authenticity. So that's really it with Silent Moon. That's what I do, get people back to their authentic truth.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And I know that we've had some discussions, dialogue before, and that's one of the reasons we've got together, obviously, folks. And I remember there was a word that you spoke about, and I gave my interpretation of it. It was the word raw. And if you remember, I said it was about ready, able, and willing, because I deal with competence verification, right? And some people are getting to know me through that, but your use of the word raw is slightly different. So do you want to just share, because I think this is a kind of a neat way to jump into getting to know you a little bit more. So what does raw mean to you, or how do you use that word again?
Well, I would use the word raw is intensity and also vulnerability. So it's almost like stripping away the onion layers. I use that analogy a lot because it's an easy one to see. Getting back to the center and pulling away all the onion layers to get to that place of the natural self. So to me, that's the rawness of really letting go, of just really dropping and coming to that truth within us. It's a hard place to go to at times, but it's wonderful, and I just love that embracing of the word raw. I'm kind of one of those people who likes to exist in raw. So it's one of my favorite words.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, there's something similar there in terms of you when you're doing your competence. Like I work with mentors and how to help them become competent. You got to get back to peeling some of the onion back to be able to do that as well. Is to stand in that space of being for the world as a mentor. And I think what you're talking about is through the essences, through even some of the yoga practice you're using, I'm thinking is you can help people get back to that authentic rawness of them. And that's what I like when you were sharing it, rawness, the state and quality of being raw. And there's something about that that's just kind of neat. Now, I also know that laughter is really important to you. Not that you ever laugh or anything like that, right? So,
I've got humor.
and I know that's sort of a little inside joke, is because we've had a couple of good laughs as well. So, but how does laughter fit into what it is that you're doing?
I think because I'm going to get serious now, weirdly, because
come on.
Because I spent a lot of my life being miserable and not allowing myself to laugh. And that came through depths of depression as a teenager and eating disorders and a really tough place to almost I would say that I was in one of those places where I didn't allow myself to have fun. And as I got older, sort of past 25, had my first child, and I realized actually life is fun. Life is, it's there to be laughed with. We need to laugh at ourselves, because if we don't laugh at ourselves, we can get ourselves into some real messes. And I've noticed when I allow myself to have fun and laugh at some stuff that goes on in my daily life, that can just be like, what? If I start to allow myself to have fun, then it just changes everything. It turns it around, and I get that contrasting experience. So that could be anything from, just stepping out the door and doing something that you love to do that makes you laugh. It could be putting something on, a comedian on, I love to put comedians on, but really, to be honest, Stephen, I think I'm the funniest person I know. So
we'll go with it. We'll go with it. Well, there is something about that. It's because I used to talk about what was called simply serious fun.
Yeah.
That's how I referred to it when I was doing some of my work with teams and groups. And they would shake their head at me. I'd walk in and talk about it, right? It's simply serious fun. And then they would start to break it down and go, oh, I see where you're going with this. And we would have a little bit of a hoot and holler, and off we went, right? And
yeah.
Well, I know it's one of the, and I'm going to have a little pun here. It's one of the essences of who you are.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the background story you just shared, certainly gives us an idea of that. But that laughter, I know, and running out the door to do something, all right, there must be some spontaneity in your life. You must look at being spontaneous to some extent. So spontaneity, spontaneous. How about that word? Where do you go with that one in your life and your business?
Well, for me, I mean, Silent Moon is about spontaneity, because if I'm not spontaneous, I can't work with nature. I mean, something very, very precious happened this weekend for me when I was creating Bluebell, and I can share it here, even though it's not out it's not out with the public yet, but I'm quite happy to share it here, because it just acknowledges that word itself. When you work with nature, you can't expect anything, because nature will not allow it. If you're expecting, for example, I expected to make Bluebell this weekend, as in the bluebell, blue flower that we see, and that's our vision. And I was creating, and I was putting the flowers in the bowl, and I was how I create in a glass bowl, and I was working with the white bluebell as well. I don't know if you have those in the States and in Canada, but the white bluebell is actually a Spanish kind of bluebell, so I've been told, and it's an albino flower. It's just the same. And as I put the white ones in, the blue ones jumped out of the bowl. They just came out of the bowl. Okay. And people would say, yeah, right. Okay. But that is the truth. Now I could have fought with nature and gone, no, it has to be this color. But that wasn't the case. So white bluebell has been born this weekend. That is my latest flower essence, because I listened to nature and I just got, okay, we're being spontaneous. I didn't expect any of this, but I'm just going with it and just allowing it to happen. And it was an amazing experience. And because of that, it's a really powerful flower essence, because I just allowed what was. We get too caught up in controlling things in our lives, and we've got control of nothing. As you know, we can't control anything. So being spontaneous to me is something that I've actually had to learn more of, because I think as a child, as a young adult, I was quite a control freak. So
okay.
So I've taught myself to be much more spontaneous in life. And when I do, then I notice how things just flow naturally. And that's how it should be.
Yeah, there's that notion of flow naturally, and what nature can share with us. And when you're out there, there's a whole different story, but also metaphorically, if you bring that story into your life, it's such a wonderful, wonderful way. And as I shared with you, and as I've shared with those listening in on the WELLther series around the eco-ethical architecture that I have created. And there's more to follow, but hey, this is about yourself and what it is that you're doing. And another element of your life. Now, I don't know this about you as much, because we only touched about it in our conversations, but I'm going to just pull this word out because I think it's important. Musical. Yeah. You mentioned something about being musical or weaving it in somehow. I only remember it, and I just thought that, hey, where does musical take us?
Okay, well, singing.
It's from that perspective. Okay, all right, okay.
I love to sing. I love to chant. And most of my yoga experiences and my yoga meditations and the teachings that I do use the voice and use sound and use vibration. And I notice that when I bring those elements into my life, how I feel much more beautiful. I feel much more expansive. And I see that in other people. Everybody who I teach tends to like to be vocal as well. And when we do the chanting and when we do the singing, and we just allow our voice to move in any way that feels good within the session, I notice the lightness of people's faces. Everybody lights up. And so, yeah, music is huge to me. I love to listen to music, and I have a very diverse, way of listening to it. I just like any kind of music. I'm open to music. Although I'm not the best at musical instruments because I don't think the patience has been there.
Right.
Play around on the guitar and stuff, but I think singing is my thing mainly.
I asked you for what would be an important word, and you gave me a word phrase, and I thought that this would be kind of a fun one because I don't know where we're going to go with this one, but this is the phrase that you said, hey, let's have a quick chat about this one. And I said, okay, here we go. So the phrase is, folks, wonderful mess.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to have to help me on this one because I can go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah. Well, basically, Wonderful Mess is something that was created within Silent Moon itself and within my private Facebook groups, because I hold a lot of support groups for the flower essences as well. We do a lot of work as individuals, but we have private support groups too. And they're sort of the offshoot of the bigger group that's on Facebook, then the smaller ones. And Wonderful Mess became a word on Periscope. I don't know if you remember Periscope all those years ago.
Yeah.
It was, we started using it as the ability to be able to see all our messiness and our and accept its wonderfulness. So again, it works with all those other words like laughter and spontaneousness, and also seeing the shadow side of who we are through the essences. And Wonderful Mess is the laughter word that comes with the shadow, really. So that's the one that you can laugh at and go, oh, look, I'm feeling all this stuff coming up today, and I'm feeling angry and I'm feeling jealous, and it's all my wonderful mess, you know? And that can also come into the laugh. Let's laugh at it. Let's look at it and laugh at it together. So that's where it comes from. It's accepting our messiness and making it wonderful.
Okay, I kind of thought I had a bit of a hint of where you might go with that, but I'm sitting here going, Wonderful Mess, the autobiography of one who engages with life and being the best for the world. It would be like a really great book title as well, right? And I went, okay, I see where you're going, because that's where I immediately went to. Is I'm a book, Wonderful Mess, but it's great that you filled in what some of the pages could be about. And it could be an autobiography that a person could write, true?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm on it now.
Okay. Well, from your point of view as well, but I'm thinking for the people who are listening in, because like some of the, where we've been today, you know, the raw essences, the wonderful mess, the notion of musical, right? Because I'm not one who plays an instrument either, but I'll sit around a campfire and belt out a tune every once in a while, right? And I've got my favorite campfire song, but and those kind of things. So there's some elements of life that we sort of have drifted away. Would you agree that many people have drifted away, and we've got to let's bring some of this back together into our lives? So
yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you.
For today, because we're probably heading towards our close-up time for today, but would you get together and maybe chat again, maybe a couple more times? Would you be willing to do that with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kind of liking that we could probably create a series here, not a oneer, but maybe we'll see if we do a multiple series and explore it a little bit. But one of the things that I do when I close off a video is there anything of today's conversation, a word or a thought that you want to leave with people?
Oh, creativity. There's two actually, alchemy and creativity. It's allowing yourself to be creative and create that goldness from, you know, the alchemist always reminds me of creation of gold, and finding that gold within you, getting it out and creating it. It's almost like, what is your creation? Everybody is creative, and it's just about drawing it out of you. And so I'm going to be cheeky and say two words.
That's okay with me.
The creative alchemist.
Well, I'm thinking maybe why don't we touch a little bit more about that, because creativity is a word that I share called the creative essentials. And I think maybe let's explore that in the next video. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Great. Okay. So why don't we leave it at that? That gives us our time for today. So thank you very much.